Close to the meandering course of the South Tyne River in Northumberland, just a few miles southward of Haltwhistle, stands Featherstone Castle. It is sited not far from the Roman fortifications of Hadrian's Wall. If you pause to take in the present-day surroundings, you can hear the river running as it races ever onwards towards the sea. This quiet, peaceful landscape is the current face of this much fought over and fortified place. The border reivers roamed hereabouts, and armies fighting for dominance of English and Scottish rule have marched by here to glory and to death, and many soldiers have camped hereabouts on their way to achieve honour and renown, whilst others fell unrecorded. There are stories to tell of the pageantry that has surrounded Featherstone Castle, but perhaps the most famed tale is that of the bloody bride of Featherstone Castle. Featherstone Castle has beauty and majesty still, but it is rightly renowned as the active site of an apparition of multiple ghostly forms. The bloody bride does not appear alone. When she comes to the castle, she brings with her the whole of her bridal party as they return in their ghost form to take their place at the wedding feast that they were never to enjoy in life. I have heard some tell that this haunting still occurs on the fateful day when the bloody bride had her life taken from her before she had the opportunity to take to the marriage bed. Some say she appears only on the anniversary of her doomed wedding day. Those that have seen the ghastly forms of the rudely slain bridal party have noted her spectral appearance in summer on the long hot nights when celebrations can continue into the early hours under the pale light of the moon. It is said that moonlight gives body to some spirits, and that by the silvery moon the phantom's ethereal forms can be more easily mistaken for the living material reality which we still wear as flesh and blood upon our bones. The tale of the bloody bride is as tragic and as romantic as any Romeo and Juliet from anywhere around the world. Some name the bloody bride as Abigail, Featherstone, or Fanshawe. This name has many pronunciations and several claimed etymologies. Some believe that the Saxon name of Featherstone is given the Hoar suffix when Featherstones move down to the Hoar or the lee side of the valley. Whatever the history of Featherstone Hoar, now usually pronounced Fanshawe, we can safely say it is an old name, and some claim it as the longest surname in English, and there are at least 6 ways to pronounce the name, and most likely all of them derive from the 6th century Old English word Featherstone, which is a name attached to the principal stones formed at the centre of a dolmen-style tomb. The Featherstone name of Abigail, our bloody bride, in this story shows her rich heritage, which she held in her bloodline from generations past. It is undoubted that her pedigree and position attracted several suitors. Some of these noble wooers would have been in search of a fine family lineage. Others would have been eager to engage with a large dowry, and all were well disposed to her beauty. If Abigail had been poor and beautiful, then she may have lived longer, and we may not now still be retelling her story of the bloody bride of Featherstone Castle. It was her beauty and her position that attracted her suitors to shower upon her their fatal attentions. Some storytellers will boldly tell you that Abigail Featherstone was amorously sought after by one of the local Ridley boys, but that her father would not bless this union. Though she had grown up with the local landowners, her father had a higher suit in mind for Abigail. As is often told in tender stories of true romance, our heroine had given her heart, and neither riches nor status could sway her armorial bonds that she had made to her childhood sweetheart. At first the two love-struck youngsters vowed to hold true to their love until it became obvious to their adult minds that they could not elope, nor could they hope to bring a change to the mind of the Baron of Featherstone, Abigail's father. The two sweethearts had been forbidden each other's company, when their recalcitrant attitudes had led them to disobey the Baron's wishes. Upon his orders they were set apart, and his wishes were that his daughter should marry a finer man set higher in social ranks than the Ridleys. In a story we can all see the developing focus of fate, and watch how a few easily made decisions lead to an almost inevitable conclusion. When we hear a story, it appears that there is always a chance to avert danger, and that a harmonious compromise is so readily available to us all. Yet who can listen to this tale and say that they have not loved with a tremendous passion, and who can say that they would not wish the best of their family? If we can see how the lovers felt, cruelly thwarted, and see how the Baron felt that his daughter's youthful fancies would dim in comparison to her enhanced marriage prospects, then can we see any way to resolve these issues? When we think now of these events from the past, we must realize that no matter what we may see today, for all those involved back then, there was no other way to turn from danger. The Baron saw only one way to proceed, and his daughter did her best to follow her duty. Those that made her ready to leave her father's house on the wedding day say that she had a heavy heart and dull eyes that day. The noble groom arrived and claimed his prize. The bridal party went to the church close by and solemnized their vows, which bonded body and lands in a contract, but did not entwine their hearts and souls. Some I have heard tell a tale of the bride and the groom taking to horse after the wedding service to go hunting. The tale I tell is as follows. Abigail had set the seal on the marriage, and all was executed as should be done by law. She had a thought that this deed being complete, her presence was not needed for the first celebrations, and she had only this one chance to tell her sweetheart that she had done her duty as was right and proper, and that her heart was still his, but that she must give her hand to her husband. She wished to assure her sweetheart that she had been true to their love, and yet she needed to also set him free, that also he should likewise release her, and then that way they could both continue in their lives apart from one another as happily as could be. This day of her betrothal was the only time that she could get free to see her sweetheart. On the day of marriage she knew that her chance would come if she helped to make it happen. She persuaded her father to quickly take his leave of the wedding party, to go back to Featherstone Castle and prepare the wedding feast. No sooner was he on his way than she told her husband that he should continue with his celebrations with his retinue, while she should go to help her father and to see to it that all was ready for the start of their honeymoon. She bade her husband not to hurry, so she could make sure all was set aright for their first night together. This carefully crafted ploy gave her the only chance that she could ever have to bid a fond farewell to her sweetheart. Her closest companions agreed to help on this errand, for their love of her, and because they could see that Abigail would take her one chance to make the best outcome of this terrible situation for all that were wrapped within it. Apparently she made her journey and was able to see her sweetheart while she bid him farewell. All her well-tied subtle strands came loose. Her husband had been too hasty in his pursuit of his bride, and he had seen her take another route on her way to Featherstone Castle. The clash between the Ridleys and the groom's party was swift and bloody. Some say that Abigail had tried to appease her husband, but that his wounded pride had led him to violent action, fueled by his anger. Determined that the Ridley boy would not win the day, nor ever better his hand, the bridegroom committed the act which had sealed his fate to this day. In a fit of pique, the bridegroom drove the dirk that had cut the wedding meats into to these newlyweds are heart. It is said that Abigail's childhood sweetheart had time to kiss her lips once, with adult passions passing between them as her force of fire was forever extinguished. Sometimes the dead are missed, so very much indeed, that their bright flames, when gone, are the cause of such bitter tears, that the spirit which usually follows the last heat of the flame of life is held back in this world by the salty torrent of tears. The flow of deep sad tears can form around the spirit of a loved one, leaving an echo like an impression of them, stranded. The ghostly spirit is then akin to an island, fixed in our turbulent changing world. If such circumstances come to pass, then a visible, mournful memory of the beloved dead remains in the eyes of the living, even though the soul has passed into the unseen, shadowy dwelling places of the dead. An impression of them can still be felt here in the lands of the living. Not many know of what I am telling you now, but I assure you that this is the truth as I know it. True tears within the eye can act as a lens through which the beholder can fix the spirit of the dear departed. The heartfelt moan of the living can awaken the spirit of the dead. If you hold the spirit of your loved ones close to you, then they can be seen and felt by others too. This I tell you to explain what happened next, for many do not realize how the bloody bride has been able to make her way back to Featherstone Castle throughout these successive centuries.